Welcome to the deep dive. This is where your curiosity really drives our exploration.
Mm-hmm.
You, our listener, you value getting right to the heart of things quickly but also thoroughly. You appreciate different angles, those aha moments.
The insight.
Exactly. And, all without feeling totally buried under information. So that's really what we aim for here.
In today's dive, well, it takes us into some pretty fascinating territory.
Mm-hmm.
You sent us this transcript from a YouTube video. The title is 475 RO Claudia C2792P1, Mantra Hypno-operator extern Iuliana Dunăre Metoda Grifasi.
Right.
Quite a mouthful.
It is. And our mission, basically, is to dig into the nature and effects of mantras and prayers, specifically how they're perceived by the people in this video, an external hypno-operator and a telepathic support person.
You've given us some really rich material to work with here.
Okay, so in the video, we've got Iuliana Dunăre. She's the hypno-operator guiding Claudia, who's described as this telepathic support, guiding her to observe what happens when people recite mantras. And Claudia's initial impressions, they're really striking, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely. It's not just like one static image. She talks about this flurry, multiple dynamic changing images, like fragments.
Yeah, fragments, then colors, nuances, geometric patterns, all sorts of them. And she says they look translucent.
Right, translucent, like something is passing through them. It gives you this immediate sense, that we're looking at something energetic, something beyond just the physical world.
Exactly. And on a general level, just listening or reciting, Claudia experiences it like a kaleidoscope inside. Shifting images, different patterns, vibrations. She even mentioned her hearing felt different. The auditory vibrations changed.
Altered somehow.
So then she focuses on what she calls the mental body during the mantra recitation. And the first image that pops into her head is an experiment.
Yeah, like a science experiment. She pictures these tiny, fine particles, maybe iron filings, she suggests, and they're clumping together, aggregating into different models or shapes.
Under the influence of sound.
Exactly. And as the sound changes, the models change too.
Yeah.
It's a powerful way to visualize how sound might actually, structure things in our own mental space.
So when she says mental body, it seems like she means our thoughts, our mental processes, but maybe seen on a more energetic level.
That's how it comes across, yeah. She sees similar vibrations happening in the human brain because of sounds, creating these different patterns, different models of manifestation, both in the physical brain and this mental body.
Different sounds, different vibrations, different effects. That part makes intuitive sense.
It does. But she's also quick to point out that it's really complex.
Ah, right. So it's not just the sound itself.
No, not at all. She emphasizes that how any one person receives these vibrations depends on a lot of things. Their level of consciousness, what they want to achieve by using the mantra, even their subliminal life plan, the stuff going on beneath the surface.
Okay, so it's definitely not a one-size-fits-all kind of reaction.
Not even close.
Then, when Claudia shifts her focus to the energetic bodies, this is where it seemed a bit puzzling, maybe.
Yeah, contradictory is a good word. Because on one hand, she sees these small energy spirals forming, and they're spinning counterclockwise.
Which usually signifies...
Well, many esoteric systems, counterclockwise, suggest disorder, maybe a negative impact, something disruptive.
Okay, but then
in other situations, reciting the mantras seemed to actually deepen a sense of calm and harmony that was already there in the person.
Yeah.
And initially, at least, she saw no disruptive spirals.
Huh. So the mantra itself isn't inherently good or bad. It depends on the person's state before they even start.
It really seems that way. Deeply connected to their existing energetic state.
And did she identify any mantras as being particularly powerful?
She did. The sound OM apparently came up immediately. She described it as a root.
A root?
Yeah, like a foundation, with these energetic rays coming out from it. It suggested to her that maybe other mantras actually originated from OM.
Wow, okay. Like OM is the source code, maybe?
That's a good analogy. Like a fundamental vibration that can generate more specific energetic signatures. Then she saw AUM, similar, but different. It appeared to be moving, not stable like OM.
Moving? How so?
It wasn't fixed as a root. It seemed connected to other mantras, maybe amplifying them or modifying their effects somehow. Still powerful, but functioning differently.
Okay, this is getting really layered, which brings us to the big question. Can mantras be dangerous? Claudia gave a kind of qualified yes.
She did. A partial yes, saying it depends on, well, many conditions. She brings back that image of energy granules, like condensed sounds within the mantra.
Representing the sounds.
Right. Each granule is different, possibly carrying specific codes of energy, inserted through the consonants and vowels, she suggests. So the whole mantra has a unique energetic pattern.
And the danger comes from the interaction.
That's how she perceives it. The interaction between the mantra's pattern and the recipient, the person listening or intoning, if there's a mismatch or maybe an inherent discordance.
Then it could be destabilizing. Negative.
Potentially, yes. But then she adds another layer. Some mantras might contain patterns linked to, well, she calls them larger, metaphysical patterns.
Metaphysical pattern.
Yeah, with a specific goal she perceives of inducing something in the listener. And she even mentions this might be related to parasitic entities with hidden agendas.
Okay, whoa. That's a significant claim. Parasitic entities.
It definitely adds a more unsettling dimension, beyond just sound vibration, interacting with personal energy fields.
So what did she see when observing someone actively using mantras, maybe someone deeply devoted?
Well, she described observing someone, potentially in India, venerating a deity. And her perception was that the person's subliminal part, the deeper subconscious aspect, it appeared distant.
Distant how?
Like coagulated, weakened. She said it no longer beautifully encompassed the person, reduced power, a weaker connection to the conscious part.
So less aware of that deeper self.
Exactly, a thinned connection. The person's gaze was fixed on an image, reciting with veneration and adoration. It paints a picture of maybe an imbalance. Focus directed entirely outward.
Okay, so what about the opposite? Someone who doesn't believe, doesn't practice, just happens to hear a mantra.
Interestingly, her initial perception there was a kind of cleansing.
Unsane.
Yeah, like the subtle metaphysical patterns connected to the mantra's energy were being cleared out because there wasn't resonance within the person's energy bodies.
So no hook, basically.
Sort of, but it's not quite that simple either. The suitability of the energetic patterns within the mantra itself, those consonants and vowels again, that still matters.
Because the person is also made of energy pattern.
Exactly. So there's still an interaction, even without belief. She stresses the need for synchronicity between the mantra and the person's, say, emotional body, their overall equilibrium for positive effects.
And without that resonance.
Without it, she perceived an inverse effect. Imbalance, tiredness, lack of focus. So even setting aside any external esoteric interference, the mantra's effect isn't automatically positive for everyone.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's shift focus a bit to something maybe more familiar for many listeners. The Lord's Prayer. Did Claudia see this as functioning like a mantra too?
Yes, she did. But she described it as more complex, a longer mantra. And interestingly, she saw the same thing, these models or codes being inserted, linked to specific words. She mentioned bread and will.
Codes again, with a purpose.
A clear purpose, she perceived, to induce specific energetic patterns and vibrations in the person reciting it, especially when said with real fervor and adoration by a believer.
How did it affect them?
It seemed to affect all their energetic bodies because of its complexity. She even described seeing these intertwined energies forming above a fervent Christian praying.
Above them.
Yeah, creating spirals that seemed to be extracting their pure vital energy.
Extracting energy. Where did it go?
Towards the entity the person was praying to, she perceived. Whether they called it Jesus, God, whatever their specific denomination's focus was.
Wow. Okay, what about non-believers saying the prayer? Did she observe that?
She did. A couple of different scenarios. One was like a young person, maybe reciting it out of curiosity or hope, like checking exam results, sort of testing the waters.
Right.
Then a more mature non-believer, maybe at a difficult point in life, there was a desire to believe, to get results, but she perceived their mental body wasn't really touched by deep emotion or faith.
So no real connection.
Not in the same way. And in that case, she saw a negative connection forming, but with a sort of collective mental plane. The matrix, she called it.
So energy was being drawn, but into like a general thought form egregore, not a specific divine entity.
That's the perception, yes.
Yeah.
A very different dynamic.
When she looked into the origins, the purpose behind this prayer, what came up?
It was fascinating. First, she got imagery linked to YHWH, the ancient Hebrew god.
Oh.
But then, almost immediately after, older images appeared. Ancient frescoes, suggesting origins before that, possibly even Sumerian.
Sumerian, going way back then.
And the purpose she perceived was, well, the image she used was striking. A framework or maybe a game with human players being directed by these moving fences.
Fences.
Yeah, like fences controlled by levers. An analogy for manipulation, subtle direction of humanity.
So keeping people contained.
That was the perception. Keeping them within a specific framework. On the surface, maybe framed as protection by higher beings, but essentially limiting their lives to the conditions set by the prayer's specific vibration and serving the entities benefiting from the energy generated.
And who were those entities? You mentioned the Christian God, but were there others?
Yes. Besides the Christian God and related denominations, she perceived countless other layers of entities connected to this matrix, all apparently interested in keeping individuals within that framework.
It wasn't just external entities either, right? Didn't she mention personal factors?
Absolutely. The individual's own interferences, their vulnerabilities, they also contributed to the energy drain, as she saw it.
And unlike the mantras, where sometimes she saw positive effects.
Right. With the Lord's Prayer, the perception was consistently one of direction, of confinement within this framework.
So for people who want that framework, it works.
For those who wish to live within it, yes, it seems to be a cornerstone of their faith. But for those seeking to leave that framework,
They're no longer drawn to it.
exactly. She perceived a shift in their vibrational pattern when someone leaves, say, Christianity and stops using the prayer.
How does that shift happen?
Well, she noted that before someone actually leaves, they likely start feeling a lack of inner resonance when they recite it. The words just stop feeling meaningful.
Ah, so the connection breaks down internally first.
That seems to be the point where they can no longer be contained within that pattern. They want to exit what she called the energy donor circuit. And she perceived an inner growth spurt happening then.
Like outgrowing something.
Yeah, an inner growth spurt, a moment she felt happens for everyone, eventually. Like outgrowing old patterns or relationships in any area of life.
What about someone who is ill, maybe with something serious, incurable, and they pray, using the Lord's Prayer?
She saw the same dynamic, those intertwined threads between the sound vibrations and the person's energy, creating that energy donation flow.
But did she see any healing?
Sometimes, yes.
Yeah.
But it was interesting. She perceived that in some cases, the person inadvertently activated their own creative healing power.
Their own power, not from the prayer itself.
Exactly. They activated their own inner force for self-healing, which she linked to the chest area, but they attributed the healing to the external God they were praying to. She saw this luminous field around them, but originating from within.
So why doesn't everyone who prays like that get healed?
Her perception was that those who didn't heal had a very weak or reduced inner fire, that creative healing center seemed diminished.
Lower energy, less belief.
Lower discernment, less energy, less self-belief, yes. And their energetic bodies might not be working together, not in synchronicity, even while praying. Mental disbelief, she felt, could block the creation of that healing flow. The fields looked destabilized.
Okay. There's also a claim sometimes made that the Lord's Prayer benefits each chakra, the energy centers. What did Claudia perceive about that?
Her initial take was, no, not accurate.
Not accurate.
She saw an apparent order within the chakras when someone recited it, yes, but it was still order within that restrictive framework she kept mentioning.
Still fenced in, basically.
That's the image, yeah. She visualized a meditation group using the prayer, and it created a temporary uniformity, a harmonization.
So it did harmonize them.
But she attributed that to the combined energy of the participants focusing together, not to the prayer itself having some inherent chakra-regulating power. The prayer's role, she felt, was still just maintaining the framework, even in a setting aimed at inner harmony.
So people harmonize themselves, the prayer doesn't do it for them.
That was her perception. No perceived benefit to starting chakra work with that prayer.
Okay. Were there other prayers she saw as being particularly powerful, like the Lord's Prayer, setting aside OM and AUM for a moment?
Yes, one came up specifically, a prayer linked to an ancient Orthodox saint. The short prayer.
Which one?
Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner. The Jesus prayer.
Ah, yes. Very central in some Orthodox traditions.
Extremely important for fervent practitioners, she noted, tied to connecting the heart and mind.
And what were her observations on that prayer?
Really interesting. She actually felt the sensation herself. Intense heartwarming, just when it was mentioned.
Felt it.
Yes. And she perceived an exacerbation, a growth of the emotional body in someone reciting it intensely. She described a redness around it.
Growth. But was it good growth? Balanced?
Not in her perception, no.
Yeah.
Not balanced. While the mind might become calmer from the repetition.
Like a mantra effect.
Exactly. But an imbalance occurred. The emotional body got overstimulated compared to the other energetic bodies. Again, she compared it to certain mantras overstimulating specific energy centers.
Leading to instability.
Potentially, yes. Disharmony, maybe unnatural manifestations, even mental instability in those who repeat it excessively. She connected it to the idea of fools for Christ, the holy fools tradition.
Right, where devotion looks like madness sometimes. What about their deeper self, the subliminal part?
Perceived as separate, struggling.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, it seemed to just give up trying to connect with the conscious person.
Wow. Okay, let's switch gears slightly. What about gratitude? Can just practicing gratitude function like a mantra?
She saw two sides to it. On one level, yes, potentially beneficial, like a psychological coping tool for someone struggling with negativity or depression.
How so?
Just a gentle practice, not obsessive. Like writing down things you're grateful for, it can help shift perspective.
Okay, that sounds positive. What's the other side?
The potential negative shift happens, she perceived, at a deeper level. If gratitude is directed only outward,
To God or the universe or something external.
right, it can subtly become a feeling of being undeserving yourself. Like you need to be grateful to some external being for everything you have and are.
Ah, okay. So what's true gratitude then, in her view?
True gratitude is for your own being, but also acknowledging how it's intertwined with external conditions and being aware that you attract things both internally and externally. That kind of awareness leads to alignment, she felt, a centering of the energetic bodies.
So it's about balance again. Acknowledging the outside, but staying centered within.
Exactly. Maintaining that balance seemed crucial.
Can we go back to OM and AUM for a minute? You mentioned them earlier. What more did she perceive about OM?
OM, she perceived, was a very deep, very low vibration. The image she got was the world at the beginning, like the origin of creation. Yeah. Mixed imagery of night and day, materialization at an archetypal ancient level. And those energetic arrows coming from it suggested it was the source for lots of other more specific mantras for abundance, feelings, things like that.
And its origin wasn't tied to a specific entity?
No, she perceived it as a universal sound, related to the creation processes of the universe itself. But she also noted that various beings or entities have claimed it over time, transmitting altered versions for their own agendas.
Okay, and AUM again. You said it was moving.
Yeah, unlike the stable root of OM, EUM seem to appear on different spokes or energetic patterns, suggesting it might work to amplify the power, the manifestation potential of certain other mantras.
So still connected to the original source maybe, but used differently.
It still has an original valence, she felt, but it functions differently within the specific energetic structures of particular mantras.
Right. And finally, those condensed energy granules she mentioned in potentially dangerous mantras. Can you clarify what they represent?
They basically represent the sounds, the phonemes, within the mantras. She stressed their effects aren't inherently bad, but different.
Different how?
The pattern might just not be suitable for a specific individual. If it's not a good fit, then it could be detrimental. And the number of times it's repeated also makes difference.
So if your energy body isn't tuned to it.
Right. If a particular energetic body isn't sufficiently attuned to resonate beneficially with those patterns, then you can get the opposite effect, imbalance, depletion, etc.
It really does all come back to that individual resonance, doesn't it?
It seems to be the key factor in her perceptions, yes. The dynamic between the sound pattern and the unique energy field of the person.
Wow. Well, this has been a really deep dive, true to our name, exploring the energetic side of mantras and prayers based on this quite detailed material you share with us.
It's complex stuff, for sure.
And the fact that this was apparently protocol number one, it definitely suggests there's probably a lot more to uncover in this area.
Potentially. Well, thank you for joining us and, engaging with this exploration.
And maybe a final thought to leave you with.
Yeah.
Consider the energetic implications of the sounds and words you engage with every single day, even the ones you don't think about consciously. What subtle influences might actually be playing out in your own life?
That's definitely something to mull over.
Indeed. That's our food for thought for this time on The Deep Dive. Join us again for our next exploration.